It's time for the Alien Conspiracy Podcast. We are your hosts, Agent ETA,
Agent Ether,
and Agent Anderson. Come along as we examine UFO sightings, conspiracies, and all things strange. You can follow the show on Twitter at AlienConPod. We also have an email address, alienconpod@protonmail.com. We would love to hear from you. And don't forget to check out all of our other wonderful links in the description on Linktree. This week's episode, the Yukon 1996 UFO sighting. I'm thinking of ditching Twitter for Blue Sky, but they're not really public yet. I have to wait. But I guess everybody's leaving Twitter. Nobody likes it anymore. All right, this week's episode, the Yukon 1996 UFO sighting. This one was chosen by our wonderful people on Patreon, our Patreon supporters. We've got 3 tiers. The first tier gets you access, early access and after hours. The next tier gets you bonus content. This week it's Enron Part 2. I finally wrangled Ether to record that. It's been a while.
I'm so sorry. I got this new job and I'm busy.
But we recorded that yesterday. I haven't gotten a chance to edit and upload it yet, but that'll be out soon, maybe tomorrow or the next day. But it's recorded, it's in the bag, and it's ready to go. So yeah, and then the top tier, you get to vote on next week's topic. And this week, once again, we had a tie. So what I'm going to do is I'll do the Yukon one this week, and I'll do the Montreal UFO next week. That were our 2 choices, and they, that way both people or, who voted, or both parties or everybody who voted gets what they want, since it was a tie.
And let's be honest, you get what you want because you don't mind doing either one.
No, they're both good cases.
Yeah,
I'm less familiar with the Montreal case, but it still looks like a pretty good case. And
that's also a Canadian case?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, Montreal. Yeah, this is a Canadian case. And one of the reasons that, this has been on the list for a while. I've been wanting to do it because it's a really good case. But we actually got a coin from the Canadian Mint. And that's kind of what I was like, yeah, let's do this case because we have a coin for it now, And it was from the actual Canadian Mint. And we were remember we did the Falcon Lake incident? Were you on that one, Ether?
No.
You weren't on that one. They had a coin for the Falcon. That. Yeah, they had a coin for that one, but it was a few years ago. I think it was 2018 or something that it came out, and it's gone up in value to like $1,200. So I'm like, I don't know, that's a bit much, not really my thing, coin collecting. But this one I got it still pretty close to its original price. So I decided to splurge and get one. It was like, I don't know, $100 or $110.
They're pretty cool. You put them under a black light and then you can see like the UFO and like the beams of light. Yeah, it's awesome. We're going to put it in a little box with a black light on. Yeah,
it's really cool. Really, really cool. And we got actually 2.
Well, hey, when you got a Rolex, I mean, this doesn't even make a dent.
Oh my God, not the Rolex thing again.
I should do a bonus episode
on fake Rolexes.
On fake Rolexes. Yeah. What ETA is talking about, what he's referring to is when we were on the lockdowns, I went down this rabbit hole looking at fake watches. Like I'd heard of them before. Obviously, everybody's heard of fake watches, but I didn't realize just how much there was to it. Like there's this whole subculture of people who are into fake watches. And a lot of the people who are into the fake watches, they actually own the real watches too. Like it's not because they can't afford it. It's this whole weird subculture that I maybe do an episode talking about it or something. But anyways, when we're on the lockdowns and I had literally nothing else to do, I sort of read up on it and learned a lot about it just out of curiosity. And I said, what the heck? I'll get myself one. So I got myself a fake Rolex. And I didn't get it to flex or to pretend like I'm rich or anything like that. I just got it because I found the whole thing fascinating. Like it's a really, really good replica, like really good. So I don't know. I just wanted one just out of curiosity, so I got one. And sometimes I'll joke around, if Agent Ether is like, oh, I don't know if I should get another such and such. I'm like, whatever. I don't care. I got a Rolex. Go ahead and buy it.
All the time. All the time. And I'll also ask him what time it is. What time is it, Agent Anderson?
It is awesome o'clock.
It's always awesome o'clock. And he never actually tells me the time.
Yeah. Because it is a very, very nice looking watch. But anyways, I think that might be a good bonus episode, quick little one. I don't know. Maybe not. But there's some really, really cool stuff. And it also introduced me, like I had no idea how many luxury watches there are. There's a bunch. There are so many luxury watches. And some of them go for just really crazy amounts of money. Like there's one that's pretty popular called Patek Philippe. And those go for, depending on the model, their 5711 can go for $100,000 for a steel sports watch. And they have some rare models that go for millions just for a watch. Wow. It's crazy. Like I said, it's a fascinating world that I knew nothing about. And then I went down the rabbit hole and I just, anyways. So let's maybe talk about that some other time. But let's get to it. So we had two choices, and those were based on the two coins I was able to procure from the Canadian Mint. And it was a tie, so we're going to do the Yukon first. All right, let's start it off. The Yukon area in general has a strong history, or long history of UFO sightings, going back to who knows when, but there's a bunch in the area if you care to look for them.
I read there's 293 reported by the, let's see, who is it? They have some sort of UFO research society up there, the Yukon UFO Research Society. And they've investigated 293. And they said back to the 60s, and then they also had one case from the 30s.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, it goes back even farther than that. Like the indigenous peoples of that area have a long tradition of describing, people that, or beings that came from the sky. They call them like sky people or cloud people, and they would either manifest themselves like in a way where, it would be lights in the sky and they come down. And there's even stories of like, these indigenous peoples being like
abducted.
Brought to like different.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, not, I don't know if abducted is, well, I guess you could say that, but they were brought to like even like different worlds and stuff. And like, they describe these beings as like very intelligent, very kind beings traditionally, from what I've heard. And like, they even like describe about like, when the beings would leave, they would be left with like a great sadness, that they miss them, that like, I guess they had they described the interactions as being very positive, very beneficial.
Yeah. I didn't read so much about that kind of stuff, but I have heard similar things before. So it doesn't surprise me that would also be in this area. This kid, we're going to say something, Agent Ether?
No.
Okay, you looked like you were going to say something.
I know. I'm so out of it. I'm sorry.
It's all right.
So tired.
This particular case was investigated by a gentleman named, I don't know, dude, by a gentleman named Martin Jasic. He was investigating as a representative of UFO BC, and he's still with them, by the way. I looked at their website. According to the website, he is currently their treasurer. And I'm guessing that's a UFO organization active in British Columbia. He also founded the UFO Yukon Research Society. That's probably better for looking at stuff in the Yukon than UFO BC, which is, south of the Yukon, I'm guessing.
Yeah, they have big conferences with lots of ufologists.
Yeah. Oh man, I would love it if this show took off to the point where we had a budget to actually go to these conferences and stuff. That'd be pretty cool.
Oh, that'd be awesome. If I ever made a trip up there to the Yukon, to be quite honest, now this is, completely off topic here, but every time I think of, like, I hear the word Yukon, I think about the Yukon gold rush. And I've always wanted to like go panning for gold in some of these like streams or rivers up there,
That'd be fun. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry to interrupt there.
Oh no, it's okay. It's cool. Ether looks like she keeps looking like she's about to say something.
I was thinking about potatoes.
Potatoes? Oh, Yukon potatoes. Yeah. Are they yummy? We get different potatoes. They all taste the same to me, to be honest.
I don't know.
Not a sweet potato?
No, not sweet potato. I'm talking about like russet potatoes and Yukon Gold and whatever. There's, we always put so much butter on them and stuff that they just all taste the same to me. I don't know.
Yeah. I can see that.
Banana says, haha, potatoes. I love her. I'm guessing he's talking about you. So you have a new fan, Agent Ether. All right, where was I? Oh yeah. So this particular sighting is from 1996. This is definitely the most well-known sighting from the Yukon area. And it's one of the better known sightings from Canada in general. It's not like the best known sighting, but it's up there, I would say. It's a big one.
Mm-hmm.
It took place along the Klondike Highway in the Yukon Territory in Canada, as I've said, and that's north of British Columbia, which is, if you're not familiar with Canada at all, that would be north of Washington State on the west coast of the United States and east of Alaska. So it borders Alaska to the west, and it borders British Columbia to the south. And it's in there, and it's the second least populous territory in Canada. It's pretty sparsely populated. It's, as of 2023, there were 44,238 people there, according to Wikipedia. So it's mostly wilderness, I imagine. And I saw some pictures and some film online when I was looking at this case. It's very pretty there, like really pretty. I would love to visit sometime, but a lot of Canadas are like that as well. A lot of Canadas, did I say?
Yes, you did.
A lot of areas in Canada are like that. I'm kind of out of it too. We just we keep getting sick, man. And it's been a while since I've been not sick, and it's just I'm getting over the tail end of the last one, so I'm still a little out of it, unfortunately. So many Canadas, says Miz. What's up, Miz? All right. We're talking about an event that happened on December 11th in three main areas. That the areas in are Fox Lake, the village of Carmacks, and the village of Pelly Crossing. There were at least, well, according to this report that I was reading, there were at least 22 witnesses, but then it was updated to say that there were about 30 witnesses that were definitely identified. But also over the years, it seems like a few more have come forward. But those witnesses that we know about for sure, these are witnesses that Martin was able to identify and speak to, identify by name and, verify that they're like real people. And he actually was able to talk to them, not just, people who put an account online. And the people that he spoke with said that they saw other people who were looking at it as well, but they haven't come forward. So even though the number is somewhere around 30, the actual number of witnesses is almost certainly much higher than that.
Now, you said one of the areas was Carmacks?
No. Yeah, well, Carmacks.
That's what I thought. I thought.
That's the village of Carmacks.
So when I was listening to one of these interviews, it said that this guy and his friend or cousin, somebody, when they saw the UFO, they were on their way to Carmack. And I thought they were on their way to Carmacks to trade in a car. Like, it took me...
I thought the exact same thing the first time I heard that.
I was like, they want to trade in a car. They're on this super lonely, long stretch of highway. It's like this cold, clear winter night. And they're driving down to trade in their car.
Yeah, in the middle of the night. Did they even have CarMax back then?
I don't think so. I don't know. Certainly not in Canada.
Yeah,
I don't think it's a Canadian thing.
I don't think
definitely not in that area.
I don't think it's that old. I don't know. I could be wrong. That's hilarious. I also wonder if that has, if the Klondike Highway has anything to do with the dessert item. The Klondike bars. Yeah. Remember those? Yeah. Remember those commercials, Agent Ether?
Those are good ice creams.
They're delicious.
What would you do for a Klondike bar?
I would definitely witness UFO. That's for sure.
I don't want to know what Agent ETA would do.
Yeah, I'd do a whole lot. Especially for one of like the Heath bar ones. That's my favorite.
Oh, those are good. Yeah. It's also good that, a little bit of a tangent here, but we have, I don't know if they're everywhere. It says on the box that they're made in San Francisco, but they're called It's It. And they're like these ice cream cookie sandwiches. They're really good. But
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, that was good.
They're also like about 1 million calories. So I try to avoid them because, I ain't so young anymore.
Because it's big. It's 2 big cookies, in a very thick thing of ice cream.
When I was young, I could just eat whatever, but that's not the case anymore.
No,
those ones are good though, because like the cookie to ice cream ratio is
it's perfect.
Like they're big, but it's still good. It's right on the point right there.
They're delicious. We kind of lost you there, ETA. His internet's been real spotty lately, so I don't know.
Yeah. Well.
There you are.
Yeah. You guys keep on cutting out for me. Like I don't hear the whole conversation.
Oh no, that's terrible. terrible.
Oh, that sucks. Well, I hear ether just fine, so it must be your internet, ETA.
All right, you can blame it on me.
It has nothing to do with us being in the same room.
Yeah. All right. So where was I? Cookies, Klondike bars. No, that's not in my notes. Okay. So, 22 witnesses, which has been expanded to 30. Let's see. Oh yeah. On the website, they had a report that I wanted to order, but the website looks really old. That includes newer witnesses apparently that are not on the website. I don't know. I emailed them, and if it's available, I will buy one. It's only like $10 or something.
Well,
but
there was also a UFO sighting in the same exact area in 2000.
Oh, was there?
So like this area, this area seems to be somewhat active.
I looked at a couple of older sightings. I took brief notes on for this episode, but they have a bunch on this website I was looking at. Let's see. Let me get the web address for anybody curious. Let's see. It's ufobc.ca is one of them. They have a bunch of cool stuff. And I think that's where it is. Here we go. And if you go to ufobc.ca/Yukon/index.htm #sightings, there's a whole list of sightings in the Yukon. There's a bunch of them.
Yeah.
I only had time to look at a few of them. And there's one that looks like I just did a brief look at it, but it looks like a pretty interesting sighting. I might end up doing a bonus episode on that as well, but talk about that one.
Definitely a hot spot of activity.
Yeah. And on that website, that's what I'm talking about. They have UFO BC Special Report Number 1, Giant UFO in the Yukon Territory by Martin Jacek, MSc PENG. I'm not sure what those abbreviations mean. Maybe his degrees or something.
Master of Science in Engineering or something.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you're probably right about that. Yeah, that makes sense. But yeah,
sounds fancy.
On the website, it says to order, mail a check or money order for $12 Canadian or $12 US to the following address, and this includes shipping. I'm like, anybody mails checks anymore? Like, has this been updated in the last 10, 15 years? So I emailed them to make sure that they still have copies. And if they do, I'll probably buy one just out of curiosity, because there's apparently new stuff in there that wasn't in the original report.
I thought he had a book. You could just get the book.
Is there a book?
I thought there was.
I didn't see the book.
Oh, maybe not then.
Yeah, I don't know.
You always just assume there's a book. You know what I mean? Somebody's investigating UFOs. You always just kind of assume there's a book too.
There's always a book.
There's always a book.
But yeah, I'm not sure about it in this case. All right, yeah, but I was surprised on that website that there was no PayPal option or some sort of digital payment. You have to mail them a check all the way to Canada. Hey, I'll do it though, man. I will mail the crap out of that check. I don't care.
Is it available on Amazon? I'll buy it on Amazon.
I know, right?
Makes it way easier.
Actually, I didn't check Amazon, but who knows? Maybe you could find it on there used or something, but I'm not sure. All right, so let's see here. Where was I? Oh yeah, so this Martin interviewed all these people and put together a pretty good website where you can read all about the case, and it's on that website I just told you guys about. But when he interviewed people, most of them wanted to remain anonymous. There's only one witness that originally was willing to use their real name. And, if you've listened to this show before, then you'll know that there's a reason for that. People get ridiculed, their kids get bullied, they lose their jobs, all kinds of weird stuff happens. And, like I always say, it's not the witnesses who are being weird. It's that weird shit they're looking at that's being weird. So don't blame them for it. It's not their fault they're seeing weird stuff. Wrong place at the wrong time or whatever, Oh, let's see. Banana's asking for the name of the website again, so I'll give it to you again. It's ufobc.ca. So that's ufo.bc.ca. And then if you want to go to the case summaries, once again, it's ufobc.ca/Yukon/index.htm #sightings. And that'll take you to that list I was talking about. But you can navigate there pretty easily just from ufobc.ca. There's a bunch of stuff on that website. Looks awesome. I'm not familiar with it, but it looks like there's a ton of great stuff on there. But all right, let's see. Oh yeah, so the witnesses wanted to remain anonymous. So in Martin's report, they're all referred to by a code name based on where they had their sighting.
I love these code names.
Yeah.
So much fun.
So the ones that saw it next to Fox Lake are Fox 1, 2, 3, and so forth. And the other ones are, let's see, where did I notate that? I don't know. It's on here somewhere.
This was one of those cases where the amount of people who claim to have experienced this and seen the UFO it was a very large area. I mean, it was multiple different communities, that had seen this, everywhere from in the area. There's a couple different areas called Dawson, Mayo, I don't know, Watson Lake. It was all over the place. There's a ton of people that I think there's probably a lot more people, maybe twice as much, that actually came out and said that they saw it. There's a lot of people that probably didn't even come up and say that I witnessed this. They're probably just like, well, that was weird. I'm not going to talk about it because I'd rather not. It was everywhere from Fox Lake to Little Fox Lake to Pele Crossing. I mean, it was all over the damn place. It was a very large area, actually, where people were experiencing this.
Yeah, and so I'm going off of information from a report that was released in I think 2000 or 2001. And the reason I chose to do that was because I find in general it's best to get as close to the event as possible, because over time people forget or distort details, stories change, et cetera, et cetera. So I try to get as close to the event as possible. But yeah, I think as ETA is saying, and like I mentioned earlier, I think more witnesses did come out over time. So I think that's but I didn't look at more recent witnesses that have come out. But that, not to say that those witnesses are not valid. I just didn't look into that too much. But I did watch a couple of videos when I was eating lunch. Other than that, though, I stuck mostly to the 2000 report from Martin here.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So the general description of the UFO was that it was about the size of a football stadium. That's what most people reported it as. And in Canada, I imagine that must mean soccer. But either way, soccer, football, baseball, whatever, they're all really big. The estimates that they actually were able to estimate its size because we have multiple witnesses at multiple vantage points. So they were able to triangulate it. And they did have some of the witnesses were able to give them an angular size as well. So that gave them the ability to give, just a vague or a broad estimate on what the size could be. That estimate is anywhere between half a mile to 1.1 miles long, or 0.88 to 1.8 kilometers in length. For those of you,
that is enormous.
That is mind-bogglingly large. So I looked up how big stadiums are, and that information is not readily available. So I went to Google Maps and I found, how big is the Crypto.com arena, for example. That's in downtown Los Angeles, home to the Lakers, Clippers, and Kings. And that's about 0.18 kilometers across. Or if you measure the little long bit that sticks out, that's about 0.6 kilometers. But if you just count the round part, then, the round stadium, then it's actually just 0.18 kilometers, which is quite a lot smaller than what they estimate the size of this thing to be. So
I think it was so immense that in your mind, you're like, well, what is this close to that I know of, that I'm familiar with?
Yeah.
And you're like, well, it's around the size of a stadium.
Yeah.
It must have been shocking. To see something that big in the sky moving that slow also with all the lights and stuff. And it must have been shocking. It just hard to comprehend even, you know what I mean?
Yeah. See, Banana is asking, what is BC? BC is British Columbia. That's, I'm guessing that's what the BC is, unless I referred to some other BC that I forgot what it is.
I've been to British Columbia.
I have not.
It's very pretty.
Yeah, I would love to go sometime. I would love to go to Canada in general. So many awesome places in Canada. Cold too, though. Let's go there and see the aurora. That'd be fun. Never seen.
Yeah.
Everyone else in the United States gets to see them but us. I'm really annoyed.
Yeah, I know, right? It says, I'll see on the news, the aurora seen as far south as Florida. I'm like, Florida? Well, it was raining last night, so Really?
Yeah, they've been all over. There's been a lot of like solar activity. So they've been popping up in weird places. Like they popped up just north of us.
Yeah.
Like recently, like in the last few weeks, like over in Cloverdale or something, like pretty close, like a few hours drive.
Every time it's further south from us, I see on the news, Aurora's seen here last night. It was cloudy or raining or both. But
it's like everywhere but where you are, or the conditions don't allow you to see it.
We're about an hour north of San Francisco, and that's the auroras almost never come that far south. It's incredibly rare. So to have it happen, I think twice this year that I've seen in the news is pretty unusual. But I don't know. Who knows?
Huh.
All right. So let's see. Let's get back to the case. All right. Oh, yeah. Here we go. I put that right there. So, so the Fox Lake witnesses are referred to as Fox 1, 2, and 3, etc. Pelly Crossing are referred to as Pell 1, 2, and 3, and Carmax as CRM. Doesn't roll off the tongue quite as well. So maybe we'll just call them Carmax 1, 2, or 3, which sounds better. All right. So several of the really cool thing about this case is that several of the witnesses who were driving on the Klondike Highway actually all stopped at the same place, the Brayburn Lodge, and talked to the lodge owner, Steve Watson, which is really cool. And even though Steve Watson did not witness the UFO himself, that makes him a very important witness because he's able to say, okay, this person came in at this time, and then this person came in at that time, and this is what they told me, and they drew these drawings or whatever. So we have a corroborating witness here in addition to the multiple witnesses. And multiple independent witnesses, that's like the best thing you could possibly have in a UFO sighting, because it pretty much entirely rules out the possibility that the witnesses are hoaxing the event. It doesn't necessarily mean that it wasn't a hoax of some kind. It just means that the witnesses themselves are not hoaxing it, because you have all of these people who never met before. The chances of them corroborating are essentially zero. It's just not going to happen. So that's why this is such a great case. All right, well, let's get into it. I have a basic timeline here. I'm not going to go into too much depth of like all of the witness statements because there's a ton of them and we don't really have time for that in this episode. Maybe I'll get to it at some point later. I don't know. But like in a bonus episode or something. I don't know. We'll see. But here's basically what happened. So Fox 1 was driving along Fox Lake at about 8 p.m. He noticed a light in the distance that wasn't supposed to be there. And like I said, this is a pretty remote area. Well, I don't know if remote's the correct word because Fox Lake is a tourist hotspot, but there's not a whole lot there. There's no big giant cities. There's no skyscrapers. There's not a ton of airplanes flying through. It's a lot of wilderness, So Fox 1's driving through and he sees lights in the distance that there's not supposed to be lights there, right? Like a bunch of lights. As he got closer, he noticed that it was actually an object that the lights were sort of connected to, and he could see that it was sort of smooth and round. Yeah, I can't talk tonight. Jeez.
It's the beer.
This 10th of a beer that I've had. Sure. That he says that some traffic passed by and the bright lights temporarily blinded him. And when his eyes readjusted, the lights were gone. But he did see a rectangular group of lights off to the east moving over a hill. He sped up. Well, they moved over the hill and disappeared. He sped up and tried to catch the objects or lights or whatever, but was unable to see them again. He drove on and stopped off at the Brayburn Lodge, where he told Steve what he had seen, and he also made some drawings of the event. Also, by the way, on that website that I mentioned earlier, you can see, I think, all of the sketches and everything that the witnesses were able to provide. They're all on there, and they're all pretty fascinating. Maybe talk about that a little bit later. Yeah.
The witness later came forward in an interview, and his name was Danny Skocum.
Oh, okay.
And he compared the whole experience to something out of Star Trek. So
I bet.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. I mean, could you just imagine just standing there and seeing something like that flying overhead? It's crazy. We're not talking about like a little weird looking airplane or something. Talking about something a mile across. That is insane. I can't even imagine. A mile across. Dang. All right. So the next witnesses we have are Fox 2 and 3. They were driving together in two separate cars. And I think these actually came forward. These two witnesses came forward later as well. Maybe you could mention that in a second, Agent Ether. But they were driving from Whitehorse to Carmax. They both saw a huge UFO flying over Fox Lake to the west of the highway. They both pulled over their vehicles and stopped, but they did so. They were a little, I think 1,800 feet apart or something like that. So they stopped at like different points. And that's actually, really useful for triangulating things as well, because they weren't both at the exact same spot. But they stopped their vehicles and they got out and watched the thing. And as it drifted, it moved slowly. It went directly overhead Fox 2, like right overhead. Fox 3 saw this from the distance, but was apparently too afraid to approach Fox 2 and see what was going on over there. He stayed at a distance as it passed overhead. It moved slowly over to the east and disappeared behind a hill. Fox 3 noted that the time was 8:30 at the end of the sighting. A lot of these witnesses, they don't have necessarily an exact time frame, like it took 15 minutes or 3 minutes or whatever, because I think they were all in a state of like shock or awe or something, it just.
Oh yeah, I would be.
Yeah, it's hard for imagine you're in that situation. It's hard to estimate the time exactly,
Yeah, well, and you're not necessarily going to think about like, oh, I need to look at the clock there to see what time it is. You're just like stuck in the moment. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Excuse me. If I saw something like that, I wouldn't be worried about the time.
Right. Yeah, it's not going to be something you're concerned about. All right. While they were having their sighting, Fox 4 and 5 were approaching the southern tip of Fox Lake, while Fox 2 and 3 were also seeing the object. The object was heading north, and they were heading north, and they saw huge rows of lights moving slowly across the lake. At first, they thought that it might be a Boeing 747 crash landing or something, but then
actually several witnesses thought it was a plane crashing, maybe because of how big it was.
Yeah. Yeah, and they realized, though, that it was moving way too slow to be any sort of airplane, crashing or anything. And then they realized, it dawned on them that it was a UFO. Yeah. Yeah. As they were watching it move behind a hill, and Fox 5 looked at the car clock and it read 8:23. Now, you might wonder why there's a 7-minute discrepancy, but I think it's plausible that the car clocks could be off by 7 minutes from each other, or they just looked at the clocks at different times, But
yeah, well, I don't think all like car clocks they're not all made the same. You know what I mean? I can tell you that for sure. The car clock in my car that I have a Corolla, for the gas mileage and stuff. It's, there's nothing fancy about it. It doesn't even have cruise control. But anyways, I've reset that clock a couple times just in the last like 2 to 3 years, and it definitely, for whatever reason, you would think it would stay on time, right? Because it's a digital clock, but it definitely does not. It'll be like right now, for example, it's like 3 minutes slower than like the clock on my phone. Like it's off. It's just it gets off, and I'm not sure exactly why, but it is what it is, right? So they're not all very accurate necessarily, right?
Yeah, it just depends on the make and stuff. But Banana says, I hope you do realize that UFO means unidentified flying object, not aliens. Tomato, but yeah, some watches, the accuracy does vary. And, it's ironic that, we mentioned earlier, we talked about Rolexes. So a real Rolex, the real version of what I have, retails for about $10,000. And, you can't get it for that though. They always sell out apparently. So you have to buy it on the gray market or the secondary market for $15,000. And it's less accurate than a $10 Casio because it's a mechanical watch. It runs off of springs and gears and stuff. So it can be off by 5 or 10 seconds a day, whereas a Casio is going to be off by 5 or 10 seconds every, 1,000 years or something. It's a quartz watch, not a Casio is going to be a quartz watch. Yeah.
I got a pretty sweet Casio.
I know. I got the same one. You can spell boobs on it. It's pretty cool.
Oh, no. Not the calculator watch.
Yeah, the calculator watch.
Yes. It's classic.
It is. It's pretty awesome. I love it. It's cool. It doesn't have to be worth a ton of money to be pretty cool watch. At least
every time I wear it, I feel like I'm like in the early 90s.
I know, right? Those things are so cool. You're like, hey, my watch has a calculator on it, guys.
Well, you can cheat in math class,
Yeah. Just hide it behind your desk or something, or underneath your desk.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So let's see, those, what we were on Fox 4 and 5, and as they were watching it, it moved behind a hill and disappeared. And, oh yeah, I already said that part. Never mind. So yeah, those witnesses, and none of the witnesses at all, any of them heard any sound from the object at all, at least not that I could find. So Fox 4 and 5 started driving again, and a few minutes later, they came across Fox 2 and 3, who were pulled over at the side of the road having a conversation. Like they were, I guess, heated discussion, or they were really excited about what they had just seen. So Fox 4 and 5 talked to them for a bit, and then they left again and stopped at the Brayburn Lodge just as Fox 1 was leaving. And they spoke to Steve and told them their story. And Steve said, oh, you probably saw the same thing that Fox 1 saw. 2 and 3 eventually made their way to the lodge as well and also told Steve what they had seen. Now, there was another witness, Fox 6, who was also driving along the lake. She saw a glow on her dashboard and looked up to see what was causing it. It was directly overhead, and she saw this weird glow in her car and couldn't tell what it was from, so she leaned forward and looked up, and she saw the UFO overhead, directly overhead. She looked up and saw a large arrangement of multicolored lights above her. As it passed overhead, her car's interior lights dimmed, and the music from her tape player slowed down. That's creepy. I love that detail. That's just like,
yeah.
Just imagine that, the interior
sounds
of your
like
car.
A scene. It sounds like a scene out of a movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
Sounds like some X-Files stuff going on.
Right. Yeah.
Oh
yeah. The lights dim and the music just goes, and I don't know who's singing. This is the 90s, right? So who was hot in the 90s?
Britney?
Nirvana, Britney Spears, So maybe she was listening to Britney Spears, oops, I did it again kind of stuff. I don't know. You guys showed up for Yukon. You never imagined in a million years I'd be singing Britney Spears, right? That's all the lyrics I know from that song though. So that's all you're going to get. Agent Ether, do you know more lyrics from that?
I've played with your heart.
Oh yeah. Okay. I'm not so innocent or something.
Yeah. There we go.
Yeah. We did an episode, or I did an episode on Britney Spears.
I did not. That was before my time.
I told ETA, I'm like, ETA, I'm doing an episode on Britney Spears. He's like, nope.
Yep. Yeah. All right. That's cool. That's a cool story, dude.
He's like, I'll catch you next week. I'm like, okay, whatever. It's cool. It was a good episode though, I thought. All right. So it passed overhead, and and that was, her story is a lot shorter, at least the summary of that, than the other ones. But all right. So do you have any more information on any of the Fox witnesses that you'd like to share?
I do. So I was watching this YouTube video, and it was an interview with Fox 2.
Okay.
But it was a blurred video, and they had the voice distorted.
All right.
And for some reason, the whole interview, he's in his truck, and he's driving, and they're doing the interview while he's driving his truck.
Kind of weird.
And it turns out Fox 3 is actually his cousin.
Right.
So they were driving together down by the lake on the highway. And he said that it was easily the size of a football field. It was super big. He looked underneath and on the sides, and they looked like there were like windows that were lit up in several stories. He tried his two-way radio, but it didn't work. He just got static. So he told his cousin to look for their disposable camera that they had in their truck, but he couldn't find it. And by the time he did find it, the UFO had disappeared.
I saw another account that I thought it was Fox 2. I thought it was actually Fox 3 that got a camera, but the camera wouldn't work. It malfunctioned.
Maybe that was it. Yeah, disposable camera.
But that's why, like, that's an example of why I like to stick as close to the original witness statements as possible, because the further out you get, the more discrepancies you find, you know?
So in this interview, though, he talked about all kinds of reasons why people wouldn't come forward. And he mentioned he thought he knew some people who weren't going to come forward because they were in the reserves and they were worried they'd get kicked out.
Right. I mean, there are real consequences to this stuff, you know?
Yeah.
People don't want to talk about it unless you're a weirdo like me, I guess. I don't know. All right. What else did you have for us on the Fox witnesses?
Nope, that's it.
You're giving me a look there and that's flipping your pages.
That's it. Just flipping my page.
Okay. Well, let's get to...
Ready to move on?
All right. Well, let's get to the village of Pelly Crossing. This is about a 2-hour drive north of Fox Lake. And these witnesses all reported what they saw between 8:30 and 9 p.m.
Pelly's tiny. It has like 300 people in it.
Wow, that is tiny.
Yeah, it's 80% of the people are First Nation, and they have a lot of jobs in government, and their economy's based on fishing and trapping, that sort of thing.
Okay. Well, it's strange you mentioned that, because Pell 1 was actually tending a trap line northeast of Pelly.
No, I know about that. And that witness also came forward. That's Don Trudeau.
Okay, cool. So he saw a long row of lights slowly moving over the hills to the southwest. At first, he thought it was an aircraft coming down. Again, another witness, thought that. But it was going too slow. He realized it was going too slow to be an aircraft. As he was walking, his flashlight happened to point in the direction of the UFO. As if reacting to the flashlight, the UFO sped towards him really quickly. He cupped a hand over the front of his flashlight just instinctively, and the UFO stopped rushing towards him and hovered. Now, it was in the distance. Again, it's really hard to say how far these things are. There's no reference in the sky, and you don't know how big it is, so you don't know how far away it is, but it started off far away, but in just under a second that his light had touched the UFO, it had approached to within 300 yards or 275 meters and hovered there. He had to turn, it said he had to turn his head from left to right to see the entire craft. That's a big boy, or a chonky boy, as Agent Egg would say, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's or a big bitch, as maybe Agent ETA would say.
Yeah, that's a huge bitch.
Yeah,
dude. Just imagine. I mean, that description, and a lot of the descriptions from these people that witnessed this UFO event, they describe the enormous size of this vehicle or whatever. Like it's in that one in particular. What you just described is like, dude, this thing must have been. I mean, it's hard to even fathom how big it was. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's why a lot of people, like what we were talking about, at first they tried to like rationalize it in their mind. You know what I mean? Like, oh, is this like a large jet plane, or is like, what the hell is this? It's like at first glance, for sure, it must not have made sense to anybody who experienced it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like that's not supposed to be there.
Yeah, what the holy hell?
So as he was watching it, a beam of light swept the ground underneath of the object. Then the UFO started to drift towards his right. As it did, he noticed other beams of light, greenish phosphorescent beams. One shined out of the right of the craft, and two beams to the left that slowly rotated to a horizontal position. And these were very easy to see because there were ice crystals floating in the air. So the beams were very, very clear to the eye.
It was cold.
Yeah, friggin' cold.
Winter day.
Right. I don't know if the entirety of the sightings were like this, but there are some parts of this area where it's so far north that during parts of the summer, like the sun, it sets a little bit, but it's like daylight 24 hours a day kind of a thing. Like It's really far up there, really far north. All right. So let's see, where were we? He turned away to run across a small clearing. And when he looked back, the UFO was gone. So I don't know, maybe it's one of these UFO things where it can move very quickly he saw it move very quickly, but I'm guessing that, he turned and ran and then it just zoomed away somewhere.
Yeah, later he said, I'm not quite sure why I covered the light, because maybe I could have gone on up there.
Yeah, it was just instinct, he said. But...
Yeah, just instinct. Now he claims, I don't know if I believe this, that he went home and his whole family was watching that movie Independence Day.
Yeah.
Right at the scene where the UFO blows up the White House.
Nice.
That's what he says. And he told his whole family about it, including his grandkids, and they didn't want to go outside like at all for like a whole week after he described the experience to them.
Wow. That's I wonder if they get whoops. That is our cryptid alarm. I wonder if in Canada they get the movies a little quicker, because that Independence Day came out, I thought, in the summer of 96. I'm pretty sure.
I don't know. I'm just reading from the witness statement. Like I said, that sounded a little embellished to me.
Yeah, it's like I'm wondering if, I don't know if it would have been on TV yet at that point, because it didn't. Because it doesn't go straight to TV. It goes, if it's in the theater.
Well, back in those days, you still had like a massive DVD sales,
Right, yeah.
Like a movie would make quite a bit of money with the DVD sales.
You go give the cryptids their meds and I'll look.
Okay, you check that out. All right.
I'm going to check and see when the film came out.
Cryptid break. I'll be right back.
Let me see.
All right.
Password. When did Independence Day movie come
Are you looking it up?
out? I am. I'm looking it up right now. Let's see. July 2nd, 96. So it could have been out. It could have been out, right? Because this was in what? I don't think
December.
December.
Right? Yeah. Huh. I mean, that still would have been pretty fast, though, for that movie to come out. And maybe they were watching it on DVD or something like that,
I know. I'm trying to figure out when it came out on DVD. Let's see. DVD release dates.
Well, I think, wasn't it, there's another kind of a funny story, as like one of the other witnesses to this event was a family, right? A mother, father, and I think they had 3 children, I believe. In the vehicle. Yeah. And they actually, like, the children were like, because it was around December, the children was like, oh, is that Santa Claus? It must be Santa Claus, right? And like, sounds to me
parents
like
are like, no.
Yeah. Like, they probably, I mean, I don't know, like, to me, like, if I would recognize, like, if I was experiencing this and like, I thought it was a UFO, I would probably just be like, yeah, that's Santa Claus. Don't worry about it, kiddies.
Don't worry. Be happy.
Yeah, I'm not going to worry about it unless we get abducted. But and that's kind of funny about the guy that experienced it. He turned his flashlight towards the object and it came towards him immediately. Yeah. It seems like it recognized like the light source, and came to investigate or something. But as soon as he turned it off or turned it down, covered his hand over it or something like that, I think that was probably a pretty good instinct to have, because that might have saved you from being abducted. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe it may not be this kind of a UFO experience, but who knows why they were there, what this craft was, and what it was about. Who knows, right? But I think I would hope I would do the same thing if I was in that situation. As soon as like that craft starts coming towards you, you're like, oh, nope, hell no. No, I'm gonna turn this flashlight off because I don't want no part of that. Not like a close up encounter. I wouldn't mind seeing something from afar, Yeah, but yeah. I definitely don't want to have an up close encounter. I guess that would freak me the hell out. I don't know how I deal with that.
Oh yeah, I just only heard half of that, but yeah, you don't know which kind of encounter you're gonna get.
Okay, I found it November 22nd. It came out on DVD of 96.
Okay, so yeah, but it wouldn't have been on TV by then, but they could have been watching it.
Certified VHS.
So it came out, November 22nd?
Yes.
All right. Huh. So this was December 11th, I think?
Yeah.
So they could have bought it on DVD and been watching it. So that is absolutely plausible.
This is VHS, THX.
That would have been really VHS. Fast though, because you remember like
THX
movies, like
just
even
the
like
sound thing.
When they're in like the movie theater, it still took some time for like a DVD to come out. So maybe, but it would have been like the first group of DVDs that was available there. I think if it was.
That's pretty cool, though. So at least the timing works out.
Yeah. So, I mean, it checks out. We know that, it's possible. All right. So our next witnesses that I have are Pell 2 and 3. They were driving north just south of Pelly Crossing, and they saw a huge row of lights to the north moving left to right. They pulled over at a gravel pit and got out of their vehicle to get a better look. Pell 2 noticed the Big Dipper was just above the row of lights, and they noted that the row of lights was about the same length as the Big Dipper. That's crazy. Go outside and look at the Big Dipper and tell me that that's like a reasonable size for a UFO. Because that's completely unreasonable. It's
huge.
Yeah. But this is actually a very important witness description because this gives us an angular size for the UFO. And they can use that and combine it with other vantage points to get your estimated size. Because, otherwise we don't know if it's, a smaller object that's closer or a bigger object that's further away or whatever. But if we have different vantage points, they can triangulate that. There's a write-up on that website. They write up how they determine that in their calculations and stuff. But I didn't go into that too much because it's probably a bit much for this show. Other than that, I'll just say that, I believe that their math is probably close enough based on what the witnesses said, Math is not my thing anyway, so I could read what they say. That doesn't mean I understand it. All right, so the row of lights, I read it. Okay, so this gives us the approximate size. Yeah, I read that. So Pell 4, 5, 6, and 7 were the other witnesses in the area. These were 4 women taking a class at a community college in Pelly Crossing, and they were on a break from their class. They were looking west when they saw the large row of lights. Again, they didn't hear any sound, and it moved slowly over a hill and disappeared. So that one is less spectacular than some of the other witness statements, but this gives us another vantage point and another point of view, another data point and triangulation and all that good stuff.
Now, Pell 2 was actually Jean von Bieber, and she was driving with her brother, who's the other witness. Mm-hmm. And he just said, "Holy shit, Jean." That's what he said.
Sounds about right, yeah.
And she said, they were surprised, they were excited, they were scared. And she asked her brother what he thought it was all about, and he thought it was us in the future coming back to see ourselves.
That's a really common theory. Yeah.
And she said she was unhappy because even though there was a brief story that was on the radio, they never got any answers from anyone. It was never really investigated. The government didn't say anything. So they have all these witnesses. She said she knew there were a lot of people who saw it, but they were never given any answers.
Well, I don't think the government had any answers,
Still, I think she wanted some sort of validation. That's what she was looking for. And she didn't come out for a long time because she didn't feel like she could. She didn't feel safe because there was nothing out there that was, going to support her, even though other people were corroborating her story.
Yeah. Such a weird thing, man, that you could, your whole life could be changed just for being in the wrong place at the wrong time and seeing something weird in the sky. Pretty crazy. All right. Let's get to our favorite location, the village of Carmax. All right, let's see. There were 9 witnesses in 2 different groups in the village of Carmax. This is out of order. I should have done this one first. But anyways, these witnesses, or at least the first 4, were in a pickup truck, and they saw it around 7 p.m. So this is witnesses CRM 1 to 4. They were just south of Carmax driving, and they saw the lights and pulled over near a landfill at the southern edge of town. And as they watched the UFO, it moved slowly to the northeast. And once again, it was completely silent. As it passed behind a hill, the lights were blocked by the hill, and they said that it took a long time for all of the lights to come back from behind the hill. And this, just another data point. So it just verifies that the thing was moving very, very slowly. They estimated that the object was 60 to 90 degrees angular size in the sky. That's a lot, guys. 60 to 90 angular degrees. Just for reference, the moon is, let me see, moon angular size. I tell you what, it's not anywhere near 60 degrees. Let's see. 3 surface, lunar presence. Let's see. It's moon's angular size. All right. So the angular size of the moon. Let's see. Introduction. I just want the answer, guys. Come on. The moon's angular size is the apparent size of the moon as seen from Earth. It is usually measured in arc minutes, which is 1/60th of a degree. The average angular size of the moon is 31 arc minutes. However, the size of the moon can range from 29.3 to 34 arc minutes. So that's that's 34. So half of a degree. The moon is like half a degree. So we're talking 60 to 90. We're talking many times the size of the moon. We're talking about something that's going to be like horizon to horizon type stuff. Very, very large. As the object moved, it curved around towards the south and flew through a valley adjacent to where they said the microwave tower south of the village was. And they said it seemed to just vanish. So I wonder if it was moving slowly and then it just sped away so quickly that it looked like it vanished, or maybe it went behind something. But they said that where it vanished, there was nothing there for it to go behind, like no hills or anything like that.
Now, did they mean the lights just turned off, or they could see it easily and then it was gone?
It was there and then it was gone. So maybe the lights turned off. Maybe, who knows? That's just what they said. It was just gone. But yeah, the lights could have turned off. Anything's possible. These witnesses saw a news report about the Fox Lake sighting the next day, and they figured that they had seen the same thing. The next witnesses, CRM 5 through 9, were a husband, wife, and 3 kids watching TV at home when they saw the UFO out of their window. They're not sure what time it was, just that it was in the evening. They saw the lights to the northwest moving to the northeast just over the tree line. It was totally silent again. They disappeared one at a time as if they were going behind something, but again, there was nothing in that direction that they could go behind. So that's kind of a strange detail.
They were little kids too. I read they were all under the age of 6.
Yeah, I read that a couple of the little kids thought that it was Santa Claus because it was Christmas time soon, you know?
So cute.
It was pretty dang cute, yeah. Mommy, Daddy, is that Santa Claus? And the parents are probably like, yes. Yeah. Yes, it is. Sure.
I remember when our kids were little, my oldest was, it's funny because we didn't really celebrate Christmas for a very long time. And one year he's like, I want to celebrate Christmas. And we're like, fine. And then he was really upset because Santa didn't bring him any presents. And I'm like, well, you know, we don't really celebrate Christmas. And he goes, well, Santa should bring me presents. So then the next year we're like, okay, Santa will bring you presents. And then he wanted to see that Santa Claus was real. So they have this thing on YouTube, like this video where you can see Santa Claus coming down the chimney, like in real time, like somebody's home video. And I was like, see, there he is in this person's home delivering presents. And he was like, okay, Santa Claus is real. Santa Claus is going to bring me presents.
Yeah, but then the next year when I put the NORAD on for them, the NORAD Santa tracker, they're like, this shit's fake.
Yeah, it was a strange time in their lives.
Yeah. Let's get back to the Yukon sightings. So the last thing I have for this particular one is that the CBC North Radio also gave reports of sightings in Dawson, Mayo, Watson Lake, but no witnesses came forward from these areas, at least not as of this report. And I think it was in 2000 or 2001 or something. So that's what I have. That's like a really brief overview of the Yukon sighting. That's like the best I can do in an hour, but there's quite a lot more to this case. There's maps. Yeah. There's maps of the UFO, the paths that it traveled. There's lots of sketches from the witnesses. There's much more detailed witness statements that you can go find on that website. There's a ton of great stuff that, really only just scratching the surface on this one. But before we get going, I also wanted to talk about a couple of other sightings from the area, just kind of for fun, just to mention a few other things that happened around the area. So this one was also from 96, but from July or August 96. They're not 100% sure about the date because they reported it many years after the fact. And the name of the report on the website is Man and Puppy Startled by Sound and Fast Moving Light. This one happened in Riverdale, Whitehorse area of Yukon. It happened at 3 a.m. The witness got up to let their puppy outside to tinkle, and he heard a strange rumbling sound similar to several semi-trailers driving by. But this is strange because there's no highways or anything anywhere near there where you would find a semi-trailer or a semi-truck. And those big guys, they don't just, drive willy-nilly everywhere. They stick to the highways, because they got to get from point A to point B. So there's no possibility or very little possibility that it could be trucks. Suddenly, a bright light rose up from the ground several miles away, like in the distance, sort of on the horizon. And it rose up, it stopped for a moment, and then it shot away. The sound stopped when the light disappeared. The puppy had been terrified by the whole thing and tried to run back inside, but unfortunately bumped into the sliding glass door.
Oh, no.
It was apparently 4 months old. That's how old the puppy was. So just a little tiny guy. And the witness said that the puppy was shivering and terrified for about an hour after the event. Oh, poor little puppy. But it was just a light after all, and the puppy survived. So no harm, no foul, I guess. All right, another one from late July 1996. Giant UFO over the Yukon gold fields. Two sisters. This is the one I want to do more in depth on because this one, it gets pretty weird. But anyways, two sisters were driving on the road and they reached the intersection of the Klondike Highway and Dempster Highway. They pulled into a gas station 5 minutes before midnight. And we have this reference because as they pulled in, the person in the gas station said, "Oh, you're lucky you just made it. We're closing in 5 minutes because we close at midnight." And this is after a long trip. They've been driving 5 hours or so. So they went to the station, did their thing, whatever it was they did there, and then they drove on. As they were driving in some mountainous areas. And as they drove, they saw a cigar-shaped object come over a ridge to their left. But the way I read it, the cigar-shaped object wasn't actually moving. It was stationary, but it's just because the way they were driving, it sort of revealed it over the ridge as they drove. The object had a row of rectangular windows along its side, and it was just sitting there, motionless in the sky at a slight angle. And that's more or less what they saw. But one of the women's watches stopped at 1:50 a.m., and it gets a little weirder, like some possible missing time and some other stuff like that. So this one, I don't have time to go into it right now, but I definitely want to dive into this one a little deeper at some point because it looks really interesting. All right. And then the last one I have is from 1969. Witnesses in Porter Creek saw a UFO flying in front of Heckle Hill and it descended into the valley below. Patricia English saw it at the house of Jerry Bubiek. She called to him and 4 children to come and look, and the object was visible for about 3 or 4 minutes before it disappeared. Here's a quote. "It was oblong in shape and seemed to be glowing orange. It had a bubble on top with visible partitions and 3 or 4 leg-like protrusions on the bottom. There were also other witnesses who saw it. Mary McDonald and a youngster," it didn't say in the article who the youngster was, just Mary McDonald and a youngster, "watched it for several seconds. She called the RCMP, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, and said it looked like a burning helicopter. The local airport was contacted and said there was nothing in the air at the time. A weather balloon had been sent up at about 9 p.m., but was only visible for about 10 minutes.
And probably not on fire.
No, and the winds would have pushed the balloon to the McRae area by the time of the sighting. And this sighting had about 8 witnesses total. So that's pretty much all I have. Sometimes we'll talk about possible explanations, I guess, something that's not extraterrestrial. The most prominent skeptical explanation that I could find was that there was, I think it was a satellite. I didn't take notes, but I read about this before. I just forgot to take notes on this, but a satellite broke up in the sky or, came from orbit, came down and made a mess in the sky, I guess, around this time. And yeah, but the problem I have with that is that we have witnesses from 7 o'clock all the way to like 9 p.m., right? And it's hard for me to believe that you would have a satellite breaking up for 2 hours in the sky. I just don't buy it. And if you read the witness statements, it was something. It could have been a lot of things, but what the witnesses described bears zero resemblance to something breaking up in the sky, to like a satellite breaking up in the sky. I think I've looked up a video before where somebody recorded something like that, and it can look pretty weird. It can look like a UFO for sure. But in this specific case, if you look at what the witnesses said, I don't think so. I don't think there's any chance that it could have been a satellite breaking up. And another idea that struck me was, if it's going to be like a terrestrial vehicle, it could be some sort of experimental troop transport or a giant dirigible. I talked about this on our Phoenix Lights episode before, but there is some evidence. Well, we know for a fact that our government did research dirigibles for troop transport. Whether or not they built one, I couldn't find. If they did, it's still classified, and I was not able to find it. But I think it's possible that they do have a giant transport ship that they could use to transport, a battalion of troops or something. I don't know. I think that's a plausible explanation, but for them to have one that's a mile across, that seems I don't know. It seems a little ridiculous. I'm not really seeing that part of it, but in general, I think it's maybe possible that it could be some kind of dirigible. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Dirigible?
Yeah, I just find it really unlikely. I would lean more towards mass hysteria, and I think that's also unlikely. So,
well, how do you have mass hysteria when these people didn't have any contact with each other whatsoever until after the fact, right?
They all went to the lodge, so they obviously all were on LSD.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, it was the government. The government actually released, like, in the atmosphere, like a airborne LSD, chemical, and that's what caused
from the contrails.
Yeah, for sure.
Chemtrails.
From the chemtrails.
From the chemtrails, not the contrails.
Of the crashing Boeing 7.
Yeah, whichever comes
completely
first.
Different things. Yeah, the Boeing 747 that crashed was carrying a payload of LSD that dispersed in the area, causing hallucinations.
I like it.
Yeah, there you go.
There we go.
We figured it out, guys. We solved it. All right.
Sounds like fun.
It's nice to solve one once in a while, The Yukon sighting was LSD. All right. Did you have any other notes on anything, Agent Ether?
No, that was everything.
All right. Pretty sweet. Agent ETA, any final thoughts?
I think that this event was something that definitely happened. I'm going to be kind of general about it, but I think that these people were telling the truth. There's enough people out there that had experienced this, and they were all separated, and they weren't connected. To say the same thing twice in one statement, but it seems like something definitely happened here, and whatever did happen, it was an event that affected a lot of people, and a lot of people over a wide span of land. You know what I mean? So I believe that this wasn't an alien vehicle. I mean, who knows whether like our government or any other governments are capable of not just like making a vehicle like this, producing a vehicle like this. Maybe it's a vehicle that was, found and then, reverse engineered to, we reverse engineer. We found out how to fly this vehicle or something like that. But I think it's more likely that this was, these were aliens that, like, cause the description that you hear of this vehicle, the speed at which it was traveling,
right,
the size of the vehicle, and the consistency with all the people who experienced this, it doesn't fit the script for any vehicle or any technology that we know of, at least. You know what I mean? So
yeah, that's a good point, actually. Yeah. If it was a dirigible, it wouldn't be able to move as quickly as some of the witnesses described it as moving. That's a good point.
Yeah. Well, it was slow and quick at certain times, right? So
yeah,
like it's one of those things.
It was
that just
a nuclear dirigible. So
that didn't have to follow the laws of physics.
That's right.
Is it dirigible or dirigible? What? How do you pronounce that word?
It's aluminium.
It's the floaty thing.
Yeah. Aluminium. Yeah, whatever. Tomato.
Yeah.
Whatever. But yeah, it's one of those things, in my opinion, I think this was a genuine UFO encounter. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I think I'm right there with you. We don't have enough evidence to say what it was, like it was an alien or whatever, but yeah, I'm right there with you. It was for sure these people saw something weird. What it was, I guess, it's just a mystery. And that's pretty much what we got. That's where we're at with this one. It's completely unsolved, and that's kind of fun. It's a real mystery.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that's all we got for you guys this week. Thank you so much for listening. Shout out to our live audience who is still here. It's, we're on the West Coast, so it's very late for most people who are not in California. So thanks for sticking with us, guys. All right. And if you want to listen live, just join us on our Discord. Links on the link tree or in the description. It's one of the two. You can find it there. And a lot of shows will do, a paywall for their Discord. We do not have that. Everybody and anybody is welcome. Come along and just hang out and have a chat or whatever. Come and say hi. But all right. Well, thanks for listening, guys. And could we get a Keep It Strange, Agent Ether?
Keep it strange.